Now we'll round out the sort of the biggest, well, not the biggest battle, but the last of the big battles down the grid. Now Williams have been fairly strong recently. They've picked up their points finishes. Ever since, honestly, ever since unfortunately since Logan Sargent left, we've seen an uptick in form. Albon has been doing pretty great. A small, actually, quite a big falter from him in Kota. I don't know if there was anything sort of hampering him. But an uncharacteristically low result for Albon, given his results in the last few races. But given that Colapinto, his personal views aside, given that his sort of his racecraft, you said when you interviewed him sort of earlier this year, he might have been not been so polished, but he's doing some, his attacking style of racing seems to be working out for him. Collecting points, overtaking loads of people off the start in Singapore, even though Alpine have had an upgrade that seemed to be slightly helping them in their, slightly walking them slightly further back up the grid. We're crucially going I believe it's yes, eighth place. Do you think that the sort of the strong Williams performance, the fact that their car is incredibly efficient in a straight line, or when you wind the downforce off, do you think that they can put the Alpine challenge to bed in Mexico, or is this one that's sort of a bit more likely to rumble on?
I think it's going to rumble on just because the points that these guys are getting are relatively small. You're going to see Williams maybe get a 10th place or something like that, or Alpine getting a 10th place. There's 4 points between them currently, 17 for Williams, 13 for Alpine. Very unlucky for them because it looked as though Pierre Gasly was going to get a really, really strong finish during the USGP. But unfortunately, again, a guy who stopped, got in traffic, lost all his pace. His car just did not perform on the hard tyres, ended up finishing outside the points, all while Franco Colapinto ghosted into the top 10 and got a huge point for Williams. Now, he has been a real revelation for them. He really has, But yeah, he wasn't the most polished, like you said when I interviewed him, but, he's like 20 years old or whatever, so it is what it is. It really was a great interview. Go watch it on the F1 Chronicle if you want if you want to check out the 5 minutes with.
The promos later, George.
Hey, you mentioned it. I wasn't going to say anything. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how this goes. I mean, bit of British bias in there, I'm sure, what about to say, but I do back Williams to get it because, if Alpine are going to get points, they would have got them in the US. It was a really bad weekend for them in the end, unfortunately for them. And with Williams as well, you've got the highest speed track of the season in terms of a specific point on the track in Mexico. You've got Qatar, which is a really high speed track. Las Vegas is a high speed track. Abu Dhabi these days as well is a pretty high speed track. So, Brazil and Mexico perhaps are probably the trickier of the races that are left. But I'm backing Williams to get some good points. I really am. And like we kind of touched on as well, there's an argument to be made that Colapinto's kind of showing Albon up a bit, which is really that seemed like it'd be unthinkable, really, with how much he was really wiping the floor with Logan Sargent. Yes, it's Logan Sargent, of course, but Colapinto's a rookie. He was competing in Formula Two in before the Dutch Grand Prix. So yeah, I'll be fascinated to see how it goes. I'm backing Williams. I'm not sitting on the fence for this one. I'm putting it all in on Williams for this one. I think they're going to get that eighth place, which is massive for them. You look at the investment and the facilities comparison between Williams and Alpine. You got the French national team effectively up against a relatively plucky British team by F1 standards anyway. So I think it'd be a great story if they managed to do it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Personally, I think, yeah, no, but personally, I think the Alpine is. I think that there's a certain amount of it where it seems tumultuous over there at Enstone and at Viry. Clearly, very much so, and I think that doesn't help you with good performances. You're having to go over and above to pull that out of the bag. Unfortunately they put the wrong strategy really in Kota, and it didn't work out for them.